Lovely to see you and welcome to our second watercolour workshop of 4. It's really lovely to see you. My name's Hannah and I work at Flying Fish Studio in Sheffield. So I will start by talking through the type of pieces that you might like to create today. I say might like to create because I'm just going to give you some ideas, but then you can spend time playing and creating whatever you would like. So here are a couple of examples. I just hold up to the camera. So we're focusing on watercolour flowers today and a specific technique in how you create these. So it's like this, okay? And then if we finish that, I've got another project in mind that we can have a go at as well, using a similar technique, but just not flowers, it's something else. So you'll have to wait to see if we get onto that, but I think we will do. So what we'll need today is some watercolours. We'll also need, if you have 2 pots of water, that is fantastic. And you'll see why. If you weren't here for last week, then you'll learn something new. And if you were here last week, you'll know why I suggest 2 pots of water. Then a paintbrush. Now I have 2 paintbrushes here. I have a thick one which has got a rounded end and then a thin one. If you don't have different paintbrushes, that's absolutely fine, just use whatever you have. But if you do have these, that would be perfect. And then a black pen and then glue stick, scissors, and if you have any coloured card, I'll show you how you could back your pieces onto here at the end. And then of course we're going to need some watercolour paper. So I've just got some really small bits here. Even if you just have like tiny little scraps left, maybe left over from another project, then use those as well. So there we go. So let's go. So I'm going to take one of my watercolour pieces. Now I'm working on a surface. It's just a plastic sheet, so I don't mind if this gets messy, and I'm wearing clothes that I don't mind if I get a bit of watercolour on here as well. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll hopefully see your post pop up. If I don't, then I'll answer them all at the end. So any questions at all, do just feel free to ask, or even just say hi. It'll be lovely to know that you're here watching. So, what I'll do for this technique is I'll be going in between having it up on my laptop and then also having it down here so you can see up close. So what we're going to start off with is if you just wet your paintbrush and choose which colour you'd like. Now for these ones here, in fact I'll put them up on the screen. For these ones here, it is actually red that I've used. It looks very pink, but that's because it's been mixed with a lot of water. So I'm going to put that, pop that on there, just so you can see that throughout. It's a bit fuzzy because the focus is on me, but hopefully you get the gist. So I'm going to start off, I think I'm going to do some blue ones. So I always find it best, because we're using a lot of water in this project, I'm using my darker blue. If you use the light colours, they might work, but they'll come out really, really faint. So start with the dark ones, see what you think of those, and then you could always experiment with the lighter ones after. So what I'm going to do is I've got some water on my paintbrush, and I'm just giving it a good mix, the colour that I'd like. Now I've got one paintbrush as my one paint pot as my dirty paint pot, which is this one here. So I'm going to clean it off here, and then this one just to get those last little bits of paint off. So I've got my dirty and my clean paint pot. So the thing that I'm going to do next, I'm going to show you. Oh, nice and close. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 dots on my piece of paper. So I'm going 1, 2, 3. I'm washing my paintbrush. So it's nice and clean. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like an oval shape whilst it's still wet. I'm taking the ink that's already in, that I've already put on my paper, and I'm spreading it out. So you can see it's concentrated more in here, and then it fades out as you go out. So again, washing my paintbrush nice and clean, and then create that kind of oval petal shape. There we go, it's a bit clearer now. And then again, making sure my paintbrush is nice and clean, and then with this one here I'm going to do the same, just drawing that paint from the middle to the outside to create my petal. Now I've done 3 here. I'm going to do a few more on mine now. So I'm going to get some more of my blue. Now I'm sticking with blue for mine, but you may like to choose another colour and do a multicoloured flower. That would be fab as well. So I'm going to maybe do another petal here. So I'm choosing where I want the centre of my flower to be. And I think I'm going to do some over here as well. Now if I do this and then I leave it to dry, the paint won't spread at this next bit. So I've got it like this, and then nice clean paintbrush, dab it in the middle, and there we go, it spreads out. It's a very delicate process, this, and like I mentioned before, I'm doing a technique to create these flowers, but it might be that you would like to create, well, anything you like really using these shapes. So there we go, and then before this last one dries, I'm going to paint this one as well. There we go. I think I'm happy with that one. I may do a few more here. But then once I've finished my flower, I'm going to give my paintbrush a clean, and then I'm going to do the centre dots. So on this one here, I've got the petals and then these darker areas here. So I'm going to do those now. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to choose what I want as the centre. So I'm just going to be choosing, I'm going to do this brown. Now make sure you don't just if you pop your paintbrush in, just give it a little wipe and then put it on. Sometimes not much of the colour will have picked up. So I'm going to make sure that it's nice and wet in there. Give it a good mix around. And then I'm just going to put a few dots in there. Now, if I put a dot, I'll show you on this one. If I put a dot here, can you see it's spread into this area? Now you might like that, or you might like to keep to the white areas. If you're worried about it spreading, just leave it to dry for a little bit first. Oh, there we go, there's one spreading. I think I'm just going to go for the spreading technique now I've gone with it. Okay. Really is spreading now. What you can do with this is you can add other colours in as well. You could add more blue perhaps. You can experiment with this. I think because I was showing you that it spreads, that's why I've done this. Normally I would just go in the white section, but you might like that effect as well. Okay, so you can see this water's got really, really mucky, and this one's nice and clean. Sometimes I put it in the wrong one by accident, in which case just go and fill it up again, get some fresh water. Okay, so I'm going to do another example here without the spreading. So I'm going to use a dark green for this, but you'll see it ends up being quite a light green. So again, lots of water in here. 3 or 4 or maybe 5 little dots to create your centre. Make sure your brush is nice and clean. And then work outwards. So the tip of my paintbrush is in the centre of the flower. You can see it really turns very pale. As with all of the workshops that I run, I always say, don't worry if you don't get it how you would like it the first time. For example, this is not how I'd like it. I tested something that I wouldn't normally do, and that's what happened. And I prefer it without, so I'm just going to do another one, and that's okay. So I'm going to leave it like that. Actually, I quite like these just as they are. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do a brown centre, but just in the white areas, like this. That one's running. I'm going to cut that section off so I can lift it off. Okay, so very, very pale flower here. I'm going to do a few more around here. This works particularly well on watercolour paper. I've tried it on other paper and it doesn't tend to work quite as well. If you don't have any watercolour, feel free to just go with normal paper, but don't be discouraged if it doesn't look quite the same. It'll be because of the paper. So again, I'm going to do another 3 or 4 dots. Rinse my paintbrush. And then go with that oval leaf shape or petal shape. If you have any questions whatsoever, do just comment, and like I said, if I don't see them now, then I will certainly answer them straight after we've finished. Okay, I like that. And I'm going to do again some centre dots. I have to be really careful because the paint's still wet. If it's tricky to do that, I would just leave it 10 minutes till it's dry and then go on to this part. I'm going to do a couple more petals. Always rinsing in my cleaner pot. There we go. You can see it's such a delicate technique, this one. Yeah, different from what we were doing last week, but it's really nice to know these different techniques. Okay, so I'm going to pop the camera back up now. There we go. Let's put it up a little bit. Okay, lovely. So, I hope you've enjoyed experimenting with your petals, and keep going with it if you're not quite finished. Now, my one's really, really pale, and what I'm going to do now is, like when I made a card, oh, it's there, I made this one into a card, I cut out around my flowers. Now on this one, when I did it, I actually chopped some of the flowers off. Sometimes it looks really nice when you don't actually have the full picture. It's almost like you're just seeing a part of the picture. So just to even just trim like some of the side of the petal off, that can look nice, or you can include the whole thing. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to get my scissors and just create a rectangle, so I might use this as a card. Sometimes it's really hard if you're using scissors and you're trying to get some straight lines. I'm just doing this freehand at the moment, but if you have anything at home that will help you do that, then go for that. On these ones, I like the rounded corners. So to do the rounded corners, I've cut my square first, and then I'm just going to trim off a little bit of the end. So I'm going to go round in a circle. I've hardly chopped any off, but you can see it's now rounded. So I'm going to round off another section, and then I'm going to do the same all the way around. There we go. Now I've done this, but I think I want another colour on here. So I'm going to do, well, I'll show you a pale green so you can see the difference between that. Be even paler than my current dark green ones. So get a nice clean paintbrush, mixing in my green. If you want to actually mix colours, in fact I might do that so you can see. You've got your underside of your paint palette, and all you do is just pop a little bit in there. Sometimes I've got some blue in there before, and actually you can use what's there before. It'll just create a really nice colour, actually, that blue. But there won't be much in there. It tends to all clump in one area. So when I put that on here like this, it'll hardly show anything. But just keep putting some on, and then you'll get some colour, a bit more water maybe. Okay, and then this is the colour I'm going to use. So I'm going to do my 3 dots. And then before they dry, that's a really important thing, before they dry, you don't want an absolutely sopping wet paintbrush. You just want it fairly wet. So sometimes it's worth even just giving it a little stroke on the side of your pot so that you don't have it full. And then I'm going to do the oval shapes again. This time one of them might go off my piece of paper. So, especially if you're doing lighter colours, do use less water, because then they will actually, this one here, then they will actually show at least. And then again I'm going to do the centre. Now if you do have a really thin paintbrush like I do here, I'm actually going to use this one to do my centre dots. Just easier to control. Okay, lovely, I'm happy with that. So once I've finished my little piece, hopefully you'll be able to see well on the screen. It gets a little bit faint showing you here. This one's a little bit bolder, so hopefully you can see that one better. What we now do is, if you want to make it into a card, you could get some just plain paper. That's what I did on this one here. And you just mount it on. Or I've also got some coloured card, which I might use for this one. I think it gives it a bit of a bolder look. Okay, so I'm going to mount it onto here. Now I'm going to want, if I want this on the front, I'm going to want to put it, sometimes people say, oh, do I put it on the left or the right? So that you get your card the right way around, right is right, okay? Right is correct. So I'm just going to put it on the right hand side. By now it's pretty much dry, and do just make sure it's dry before you do this next stage. Yeah. I'm going to glue the back. And then stick it down. I think I'm going to do a vertical card. have a guillotine or anything similar that maybe an adult could help you with to cut it straight, that works well. Okay, so I've got this now is on my right hand side, and then I can fold it over and create my miniature card. It's always lovely. Well, I love receiving handmade cards anyway. But yeah, these are really nice, quick little ones to do. I'm just trimming the edge off now. So then there we have your card. Often it's nice, especially if you've got coloured card, if you cut out a little piece of paper and put it again on the right hand side for you to write on, then that works nicely. So I'll do that now. So I'll just cut out a little square. I'm going to place it centrally in here, glue it down, and then I can write whatever message I would like on there. Okay, so that's the front of the card, and then inside I could write my message here. That's what I wanted to do. You might want to use it for whatever you would like. So there we go. That's our project for today. Now, another similar, well, it's the same technique, but we can create different things out of it. I've not shown this one at all yet. Is using your petal technique, including the shape actually, to create some balloons. So I'll go through this now. It may be that you would like to continue with your petals, in which case go for that. But I'll move on to how we can create something like this now, and you might like to have a go. So for this one, because I've got lots of balloons, I needed a bigger piece of watercolour paper. Also, for this project, I actually wanted to leave a nice big white border around it. So I've purposely chose a piece of paper that's a little bit too big for it, because I like leaving the space blank, almost as if, you know, the sky is up there. You could even paint in the sky, but I'm going to leave mine blank. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap this over so that you can see the next project. Pop this one in. So yeah, I'm going to do some balloons, but I would love to hear actually if you have any other suggestions as to what these what this shape or this technique could create. I would absolutely love to hear. So there we go. I haven't posted this picture yet, so what I'll do is after this workshop I'll post a picture in the comment section so you can see it up close. I'll hold it for a few seconds up here just so you can see properly. Okay, and the silhouette and the string on the balloon, that's just done with pencil. Okay, lid back on the glue stick so it doesn't dry out. One of my waters is quite mucky, so I'm going to change that water now, so I'll just be one moment. Okay. There we go. So nice big piece of watercolour. Now I have this little pack here so that any like half sheets or anything like that, I'll keep those for projects like this. So again, have a dirty pot, have a clean pot. I'm going to do exactly the same technique as before. So I'm going to start with some dark blue. I'm going to move the camera now just so you can see it up close. So I'm going to do my balloons coming up here. So I'm going to do one of my balloons here, and I'm going to do multicoloured balloons. So I've got one there, might do one there. Okay, make sure you don't do too many drops, otherwise the paint, it's not a disaster at all, it's just that the paint will dry and you won't be able to work with them. And I'm going to work from the centre again with the point on that dot, and then I'm almost doing two semicircles, so I'm doing semicircle that way with my paintbrush, semicircle the other way with my paintbrush, and then filling it in. Do the same here. And then the same down here. Just a little bit more water. Okay. I'm going to go into another colour, so I think I will use, I'm going to mix colour actually. I've already got some green in here. So I might make it a little bit more yellowy, more of a yellow tinge. Okay. So I'm leaving enough space down here so that if I wanted to draw a character, I could do. So I'm doing them up central in my page. So there's almost sky, the balloons, and then if I want to do a character down below. I would absolutely love to hear of any ideas. If you have any more ideas and you'd like to share them, I'm sure people would absolutely love hearing some more ideas on what else you could paint using this technique where you do the dots and then splay it out from there. I'm going to go for this orange. So a few more dots. Ooh, I'm just going to do those two actually. So dirty water, clean water. Splay it outwards. So like I mentioned before, if you feel like there's not enough colour going onto your page, one of the reasons is likely to be because it's just not been mixed very much in here. If you just do a quick swipe and then try and do it, you won't have picked up much of the actual colour of the paint, whereas if you actually give it a proper mix, you'll have picked up a lot more. So at this stage I actually only want it to be a watery brush. So I've got my centre here, and then I'm going to splay it out and create my balloon shape. Okay, so if I just turn that around so you can see properly, that's what it looks like. Oh, that's what it looks like so far. I don't want it to run down. So if anyone's just joining us now, we have a dirty pot and a clean pot, so that your paintbrush always ends up nice and clean. I'm going to do some yellow now. You could even absolutely fill the page with balloons. That would look really cool. I've never done that before. I'd love to see if that's something that you have a go at. So I'm going to pop a few more. And then the two semicircles, one way, one the other way. So it's like that kind of shape. Okay, I think that's a really good amount of balloons. That's what I would like, for now anyway. So what I'm going to do now is you can use a pen or a pencil to draw your lines on. Now if you use a pen, especially if you use an ink pen, I'll just show you what happens. If I put an ink pen in and by accident get it in the watercolour ink, can you see how it's just spread upwards? That actually can look really, really cool. So if that's what you want, then go for that. This is an ink pen. If you have a biro, that's much less likely to spread, even if it's wet. So you can use a biro. I'm just doing little triangles. It's like where you tie off the balloon. That's that little triangle there, and then I'll do the string downwards. Or I do like using a pencil, especially because these are so faint. I think it looks really nice having this kind of grey colour instead. I'll do a few in this. I want to do some swirls in there as well. Okay, so ignore these ones up here because I'm just doing pencil. Okay, I'm just showing you the different ways that you can do it. You might like to just have them all going down, like what I'm doing now. Or if you're wanting to actually have someone at the bottom holding the bunch, then just make sure all the strings join together. So I'll pop that back up here so you can whoop, see from this angle. Decided not to play ball now. There we go. So yeah, like this one, where I joined them all together, and then I drew the outline of the girl and then just coloured her in with pencil. Now we haven't really used the thin paintbrush yet. That's because you could, if you're just wanting to use paint on your watercolour paper, then the thin paintbrush is a good way to get a nice thin line. This can also be used for, if I hold this up close, these very, very faint stems here. So it may seem obvious how you do it, it's just a line, but actually it's great if you just practice it on a scrap piece of paper first. So I'm just going to get a scrap piece of paper. So get a scrap piece, or actually I can just use this. So I've just got a little piece of watercolour paper that I'm no longer using, too small to use really. And then I'm going to get the colour that I want. I think I'm going to use dark green. So sometimes it's easier actually if you use your thick paintbrush. Even though I'm using this to paint with, I'm actually going to use my thick paintbrush to mix the colour. It also stops you ruining your nice thin paintbrush, because it's more likely to splay out your thin one. So I'm going to mix it with my thick one. And then pick up some paint with my thin one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to practice with my paintbrush these brush strokes. If you have a thick paintbrush, you can try it with that as well. It just won't be quite as thin, which is fine, absolutely fine. So if I pressed normal pressure, that's how thick my line is. However, if I go really thin, almost very, very tentatively, so it almost doesn't matter if I don't even touch the paper. So I'm just doing just really quick, like swipes across. I'm going to keep practicing doing my swipes, and you'll be able to see how much pressure you want. So you can see the different thicknesses here. I get this one, so I'm going to use this as scrap. So I'm just very tentatively, just about going the very thin line. Happy with that one. Very, very thin. So if I wanted to add some, like my card here that I did before, I might want to add some lines to it. But I've spent a while making this and I'd rather not do a really thick line and make another piece. It happens. But if you've practiced on this first, hopefully you'll understand the amount of, well, how little pressure you need to create that really, really thin mark on here. So I'm going to do this on here now. Just draw a few stalks going up. I really would recommend that you practice it on something else first, but if you're having a go right now on this and it goes wrong, don't worry, just have another go. Often the first time you do things, they don't go quite to plan, and that's absolutely okay. Just have another go and practice the techniques, and then you'll find it easier the next time. So I've done some really, really faint. They're actually, some of them are going behind the leaves. So I've gone down here and then I've stopped and then restarted my stem there. Okay. So if I wanted to do it on the balloons, so these balloons that I've done different techniques on at the moment, you don't have to have a dark string. I might have a blue one. It can be multicoloured balloons and multicoloured string. Mix it with my thick one first. So again, I'm just going to have another practice on my scrap piece. Just really tentatively. You can either go for a quick brush stroke, but you have to be quite careful, or just very tentatively touch the paper. See what you find easiest. So I'm going to very carefully draw my string coming down. Now once it reaches the balloon, like here, so I've drawn my yellow string, it's going down, I've reached this orange balloon, I'm going to leave it and then I'm going to continue the string down, as if it's gone behind the balloon. So I'm going to carry on very carefully. If you find this tricky, I would just, I would persevere with it first, but if you're not keen on it, then just have a go with your pencil. See what you prefer. So carefully going down. I don't even mind if sometimes there are little gaps in this as well. So if I hold this up close, you can see there are actually little gaps, little white areas. I don't mind that look. Personally, I'd rather there were gaps than really, really thick bits. Then I'm going to draw that little triangle at the top, as if where you've tied your balloon. I'm going to carefully paint that up. So these work really nicely as birthday cards because of these balloons. These are lovely if you know someone likes flowers, and you can make them a lovely card as well. I've only shown you examples so far today that have just one colour of flower on them, but you can do one flower with multicoloured petals. That would look nice. So I'm going to continue doing this for a little bit more. Like I said, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can message on this live video now, and if I don't see them now, then I'll definitely answer them straight afterwards. Or you can just ask one of your parents or carers to Facebook me at Flying Fish Studio, which is where I work, and I will answer you on there as well. So I'm just going through, drawing these lines. Almost done. That's it so far. because I experimented with the top bit and showed you where the black ink smudged into the balloon, I'm actually going to end up chopping that bit off. That's a great thing as well. You can just chop sections that you like. Say I did one flower that I really liked and other sections that I didn't like. I can just chop the flower that I did like and just use that as my picture. I like the mixture of the paint and the pen. Okay. So there we go. That's what I've created today, and then I'm just going to chop this top section off because, like I said, I'm not as keen, so I'm just going to chop this section off and just have the bottom half. If you have a ruler and a pencil, I want to chop a nice straight line, then you can use that. Sometimes what I do is, because this is a right angle here, I just line this end up, make sure it's totally straight, and if that's definitely straight the bottom, then so will the side. So, see, I didn't quite cut it straight before. I've got my new line I'm going to cut along here. Let's do that with the other sides as well. Get my ruler, line it up. And chop this section out. No one will ever know I experimented at the top. I just decided to cut those sections out. It's good I experimented though. I'm pleased I did it because you never know, I might have actually preferred that result. A lot of art comes through just experimenting and deciding, oh, I like that, or oh, I'm not so keen on that, and then taking it from there. There we go. Okay, so this is the little section that I'll use. I might then mount it maybe on here. I could even write happy birthday or something on the bottom and make that into a card. So there we go. All I would then do is I would give these a wash out ready for next time, and there you have it. So if you have any questions whatsoever, do ask me. So yes, I'm Hannah from Flying Fish Studio, and I really hope you've enjoyed yourself today. Yes, Karen experimenting, and we have lots more Crafternoons this week, and so if you join us for those, it will be lovely to see you then. Bye bye.